y'all, Dixie here. Today I want to talk to you about the gear I used during my Arizona Trail thru hike and how it worked out for me or didn't. So starting off with the gear item that holds everything else. For this thru hike, I decided to try out the ULA Ultra Catalyst. In the ULA pack line, it's known as the workhorse, and it's because it's rated to hold up to 40 pounds of gear. So I knew with having all of my camera equipment and going through the desert in a dry year with longer water carries and then having to pump breast milk and, produce breast milk, I'd need more calories, so I'd probably carry more food than normal. I needed a pack that would have that upper weight limit compared to what most thru hikers probably have. The Ultra Catalyst packs are made out of Ultra 400. So the Catalyst was also, on the more lightweight pack side of things. Also had a higher capacity, so seemed like the way to go. The volume of this pack is 75 liters, so I knew with all of my stuff that would be plenty of room. And what I like about this pack, or one of the things, is it has the roll top design. I really love that in a pack because no matter how big or small your load, you can still make sure everything's packed in really well with the roll top design. If you're interested in this pack and you decide to order it, there are several different customizable options. My favorite options, they allow you to pay extra for either a Y-strap up top and or loops on the bottom of the pack. I decided to opt in on both of those. The Y-strap is convenient up top for if you've got something like a bear canister or if you want to strap your shelter up on the top of your pack. It just holds things more securely with the Y-strap up top than just like the single strap across whatever item is up there. And then the two loops on the bottom of the pack, if I could always have that on a pack going forward, I would always have that on a pack going forward because I like to strap my shelter on the bottom of my pack. I could do it on the top of the pack with the Y-strap, but I don't like having to remove my shelter and then get in the pack and then remember to put my shelter back up there. So having the shelter on the bottom of the pack also stabilizes the bottom, so when you sit your pack down to take a break, it doesn't flop over as easily. And the reason I like my shelter being on the outside of my pack is, say it's been raining all night and I pack up a wet tent, well, it can drip out on the outside of my pack instead of on the inside of my pack. And then that just leaves room for more stuff on the inside anyway. Overall, I think this pack was fantastic. I will say that there were times where I feel like I pushed that 40-pound weight limit. I know that I did with all the extra food, water, and camera equipment. And so during those times where it was really loaded down, it was not super comfortable, but that's a me problem, not a pack problem. It did actually hold up and still carry everything. It didn't fall apart. It's in great condition still. So I don't know. I don't know if maybe going forward, if I know I'm going to be in the desert in a dry year with a lot of food and camera equipment, if I keep adding on new camera equipment, then I might need to just go back to a beefier framed pack. So that's something that I might consider for a shorter hike just to see. But anyway, when I had this pack within its weight limit, it was, a comfortable pack to carry. Next, I always like to line my pack with a Nylon Fume pack liner as an extra redundancy on waterproofing. Even if your pack is highly water resistant or waterproof, you never know when a hole could get punched in it. They're cheap, lightweight, durable. Again, why not for that added peace of mind? Maybe I should go over in another video if y'all are interested how I packed my pack. Next, the shelter I used on this trek was the Z-Packs Duplex Zip. This is essentially the same old Z-Packs Duplex that I've grown to know and love and use for most of my thru hiking. Essentially, the main difference is the vestibule. Instead of having just a little like bungee attachment, it has a zipper that runs down all the way from the top to the bottom. And I do like this improvement. To me, it is an improvement. I noticed that the wind did not catch as much on the vestibule and it wasn't as noisy in the night. That was not a deal breaker for me before. I mean, it's still a Dyneema tent, so you're still going to have that crinkly noise, but it also kind of gave me more of a sense of security. That probably was somewhat of a false sense of security because obviously, based on my experience with the rabid skunk, critters and bugs and whatever can still get up under that vestibule and come hang out at your netting. And I do want to give Z-Packs a shout out. I did not do this previously, but I've thought about it a lot. Man, I really appreciate y'all's strong netting on your tents because that skunk was trying with all of its might to get through that netting at me, and I was just waiting for it at any moment to bite it, scratch it, whatever, because it was doing both, and rip through and, you know, start attacking me. And because of the netting holding up, thankfully I was not bitten or scratched by the skunk. So props to y'all. Thank you very much. I know your tents are super lightweight, but I can vouch for the netting was durable in this instance. For tent stakes, I honestly have a mixed bag of different odds and ends of stakes that have come with different tents. I've got like the shepherd's hook, super lightweight ones from Z-Packs, the mini groundhogs. And I would say that if I was to start over with square one, my go-to would probably be the MSR mini groundhog stakes, especially for this hike in the desert, because in the sandier soils, it kind of grips a little bit better when you've got stuff that's a little more loose than those shepherd hooks. I don't know, that would be my go-to. Lightweight, pretty cheap, durable. They don't end up all bent up like stakes that I've used that have come with other tents, and even the shepherd hooks ones. They stand out, you know, on the soil, so yeah. Now let's get into the sleep system side of things. For my quilt, I went with my old trusty Enlightened Equipment Enigma Apex customized quilt. This is the synthetic quilt that I've been using since I switched from down to synthetic. It's a 30-degree bag and was the most lightweight synthetic quilt that I could find for my dimensions at the time that I switched from down to synthetic. And I do wish that I could go back to down because it's just more packable, more lightweight, and maybe at some point I can, but at the time I found out I was allergic to it, and so this is the direction I've moved to and just kind of what I've stuck with. And with a sleeping bag or quilt under it, you will have a sleeping pad or you will sleep uncomfortably. So I tested out a new one for this Thru-hike. I used the Nemo Tensor Elite. It's a mummy-shaped sleeping pad, and it was actually a full length. I've used the little shorty Thermarest Neo Air X-Lite for like a gazillion years, except for testing other things out here and there. And I really do love that sleeping pad, but they've kind of just done away with it. And so it's left me like, I don't know what to do now. And I saw that this Nemo sleeping pad was a similar weight, and it's rated a 2.4 R value, so that would work for, you know, the weather I would have dealt with on this hike. And anyway, I just decided to go with it. Also, I was like, hey, it'll be nice to have a full-length sleeping pad again. So it worked well for a while, and then I got a hole punched in it, and I mean, it was like a little piece of something growing up that had broken off, and so it was just like a tiny little stick sticking up in a nice camping spot, but it happens. Thankfully, I had a Thermarest patch kit with me, so I patched it, and I just had a slow leak in it the rest of the time, so in the middle of the night, I was having to blow it up more and more as I got to the end, and so I honestly, it was all right. I don't know the direction that I will go going forward, if I'll try something else out or what, but we'll see. Now, moving on to the kitchen, I keep all of my food in a Z-Packs ultralight food bag, bear bag. It's definitely not the cheapest food bag on the market, but it's lightweight. Mine has held up for me for a while, and you know, I like that it's got a wide opening instead of the long, like tubular type food bags. It's just harder to dig around and find what you're looking for. So this one's worked well for me. It's probably what I'm going to stick with from now until, you know, I magically find something that I like better. For my stove, I carried my old trusty BRS stove. It's probably time that I get a replacement for it. I've been using it, I believe, since 2017. on the PCT. If not, then it was 2018, but on the CDT. But every now and then when I go to turn it off, it actually flares up more, more fuel and more fire. So it's probably time for a replacement, but that is fine because they are cost effective for what they are, how lightweight they are. It's just a good stove, doesn't take up a lot of space, and again, it's one of those things that I'm probably gonna keep sticking with. I always carry a Bic lighter to light my stove, and typically I carry a backup just in case. So what do I cook in? Well, most of my thru hiking career, I've had my old grease pot that has been with me since 2015 on the AT, but I decided to let it rest at home for this trek and try something else out, just to try something new. And, you know, at some point I'm going to have to send it out to the pasture, I guess, but I'm not sure that I'm there yet. But I will say the Soto Outdoors Toaks 1100 milliliter food pot, it's titanium, worked out for me really well on this trek. It was similar in dimensions to my aluminum food pot, and it was similar in weight, and so that's really what I was looking for. A lot of times the titanium pots have been heavier, so this one was the first one I finally was like, hey, okay, I'll give that one a go. It worked perfectly. I will say that if you're used to titanium pots having like thicker walls, this one is thinner walled, which makes it more lightweight. So you do have to just kind of pay attention to how you pack it in your pack so it's not getting squished and making it misshapen. I still have my same old Toaks long-handled titanium spoon. This is convenient for if you eat out of like the Mylar bag, freeze-dried backpacking meals, and that's typically what I'm eating these days, at least for dinner. So having that long-handled spoon is convenient to not have to dig your hand all in it. Also, in my kitchen setup, I have a bandana, and this acts as like a hot pad for me to take my food pot on and off the stove. Just have to be careful it's not draped down and catching on fire. But also I use it to clean up my food pot if I have cooked something else in it and I wash it and need to dry it. For water filtration, I'm still using the Sawyer Squeeze, and I've got a setup where I just hook it to a smart water bottle. So I take that smart water bottle, scoop up dirty water from the source, screw on the Sawyer Squeeze to the threads of that smart water bottle, and then just drink through the filter. I should mention that having a spare bandana is a good idea for pre-filtering some of the water sources on the Arizona Trail. You may not be forced to use the murky cow ponds as much in a more wet year, but because this was a dry year, water was water, and I ended up having to replace my Sawyer Squeeze twice because it just got so gunked up from me not pre-filtering. So anyway, having a bandana to run it through first to catch some of that gunk, and then your Sawyer Squeeze will help it last longer. For extra carrying capacity this time, so I had 4 smart water bottles, but I didn't really have any more space to conveniently carry those with tripods in my side pockets and, you know, stuff in my back mesh pocket of my pack. So what I've found is easy and takes up just a little bit of space is a platypus bladder. So I carried a 2-liter platypus bladder to have some extra water carrying capacity. So I had a total capacity of 6 liters. Moving on to clothing. So typically I have a hiking outfit and a sleeping outfit. For my hiking outfit, the top I used is a Columbia PFG shirt. It's been like my go-to for most of my thru hikes. I like these shirts because they're button up, so you can unbutton them and get a little bit more air if you want to, or button them up if it's a little chilly out. And then they're ventilated in the back anyway. The sleeves are easy to roll up or roll down, and they protect your skin from the sun, keep you cool, but also it's thick enough material that for the cooler days I knew I was going to face at the beginning of this hike. And I actually had like cold spells kind of all throughout the hike, but it is warm enough to make do. In the canyon, and then for the remainder of my hike, I did switch to a sun hoodie after it got pretty warm down in the canyon, and then even in the stretches after that. The sun hoodie was nice because it was really thin and soft. I've had one before that's like too thick, but this Mountain Hardwear sun hoodie I was able to pick out in person at REI, and it like I said, it was soft, thin, and it would dry quickly. So if you wanted to soak it down like I did in the canyon, you know, you weren't just like soggy for the rest of the day. Like it dried pretty quickly. And it has thumb holes, which I love. And if you order online, there are actually a lot more color options than what I found at REI. The bottoms I hiked in for the majority of the trek, paired with that Columbia PFG shirt, was some Prana leggings. They're just some black leggings that I've had for a while that I really like, and I just kind of keep replacing them because thankfully they haven't discontinued that style. I like them. Oh, I'm actually wearing them right now, but they've got pockets on the side of the leg, which is convenient for a cell phone or whatever else you might want to put in there. And they hold up. Like they have held up. I've had a pair do great for years. You know, some leggings do that like saggy crotch thing. After you wear them for a couple of days, they just start stretching out, and I did not experience that with these on this thru hike. And I do want to say that some of the clothing that I chose for this thru hike is certainly not like super budget friendly and is more on the expensive side of things. But you don't have to have that to go thru hike. And a prime example, the shorts that I wore in the Grand Canyon and then for I think just one stretch afterwards are some that I got from a thrift store. There's some athletic brand. I don't even know what brand it is. I don't think it's a super fancy brand. And I got them for a few dollars at a thrift store. So you don't have to have all this expensive and name brand. I have found some things that I really like that work well for me. But if you go to the thrift store and you try some athletic clothes on that feel good, they're gonna work just fine. For my sleeping outfit, I took a set of Cuddle Duds. They're soft line. My top was the V-neck top. My bottoms were just leggings that pair with that. And I really liked them because they were warm enough on the cooler nights, but not like crazy hot on the warmer nights. Now, I do sleep cold. I'm cold-natured, but I just felt like they worked really well for me most of the hike. For socks, I took a pair of Paca socks, Darn Tough socks, and another pair that were toe socks made by Exoskin. I'd used the Darn Toughs and the Pacas before, and they worked well as usual, but the new toe socks, I like starting a thru hike with a pair of toe socks just in case I end up getting plagued with blisters. If I get them, typically it's like on my big toe or the tip of one of my other toes or something like that. So you never know. It's like on a hike, I'm either going to get them or I'm not. And so on this hike, I did sure enough start getting some, and the toe socks helped with that. But before, the only toe socks I've used were in Gingies, and they just seem to get holes in them so quickly. This particular brand of toe socks lasted my entire thru hike, and I would say each stretch I wore them for sure at least once, probably twice, like 2 days in a row, and no holes. So going forward, this will be the pair of toe socks that I take with me. This time I tested out a new sports bra. It's called the Chloe 4, and it's actually a pumping sports bra, which was amazing. So it allows you to be hands-free while you're pumping, and I didn't have to like bring an extra pumping bra to change my bra or all that mess. I was so excited to find that this even existed. It worked wonderfully. I will probably wear it as like a sports bra anyway. It's comfortable and super convenient that you can just unclip, hook up, and do your thing, and then clip the little flaps back up when you get done. I also tried out a couple new pair of undies. I thought I would try the Brandwin pair of wool underwear, and I like them for everyday use, but I noticed on the trail that I actually got more chafed this thru hike than I recall getting chafed before. I don't know if I would have anyway with my ex officio underwear. I can say that these didn't feel as soft as time went on as the ex officios do, so I will probably go another direction for hiking wool underwear going forward, but like I said, for everyday purposes, these work fine. The puffy coat I took is the same puffy coat that I've been using since I switched from down to synthetic, and that's the Enlightened Equipment Women's Torrid Apex custom jacket. Same kind of deal here. I do wish I could have a down one, and maybe one day I'll be able to do that again, but until then, this one works great. So in addition to all of my clothing, I typically take a stuff sack that all of my clothing that I'm not wearing goes in, and I've been using the Z-Packs like fleece lined where it doubles as a clothes bag or a pillow. And I just noticed that my face is puffy when I wake up in the morning. It wasn't just this stuff sack, it's been other ones too. And so I wondered if, maybe the waterproofing or just having like synthetic materials on my face when I sleep was causing things to be worse as far as facial swelling. So I thought, well, what if I go to a more natural fiber for at least the gear that's right on my face? So I ordered a silk pillowcase from Amazon, and my friend Joelle, who was staying with me to help with Bratcher before I went on this trek, offered to make me a stuff sack out of it. And she incorporated the zipper that already came built into the pillowcase, and it was wonderful. I loved having a large opening on the stuff sack instead of, like the short end on, again, an elongated sack. But anyway, I still had some puffiness in the morning. I think I'm probably going to always have that, but I will say that sleeping with that silk pillowcase did seem to help. So going forward, I will continue to use it. Now, obviously, I can't tell you where you can purchase one of these, but I do have in the ladder packs list that's in the video description a link to the pillowcase in case you want to make your own. Next, I want to talk about footwear a little bit. I used some Z-Packs ultralight camp shoes for a short bit while I was on the Arizona trail, and they worked wonderfully for the colder stretches, but as it warmed up, I'm like, I can just walk around barefoot in camp. I don't really hang out in camp a whole lot on this trail anyway. Once I realized it was going to be a pretty lonely trail, it just wasn't something that I needed the extra ounces for. But on the East Coast where it rains and then you've got wet trail runners at camp, or if you're going to be hanging out with folks and it's colder and you can wear socks with these camp shoes, I really do like them a lot, and they are very lightweight. So I'm glad I have them, but for such a lonely hike in the desert where it's hot and I'm not walking around camp a lot, I just didn't need them. For regular hiking shoes on this trek, I started with a pair of Ultra Lone Peaks. That's kind of been my go-to for through hikes. And then more recently, I started also really liking Topo Athletic TerraVenture trail runners. So I've used multiple versions of especially the Lone Peaks, but the TerraVentures I've really grown to love. They have a rock plate. So I used the Lone Peaks for the first part of my trek, less than half of the miles. And then I used the Topo Athletics for the second part, like over half for the rest of the time. And I would say for this trail, if I had it to do over again, I would probably go with the Topo Athletics the whole time. The trail is pretty rocky most of the time, and so I feel like the Topo Athletic TerraVentures just protect your feet more from being beaten up, and this is one of those trails where I think that pays off.
This group knows how to hike in sun.
Looks like y'all do too.
Yeah.
Next, I want to talk about sun and rain gear. So to protect my face from the sun, I like to carry one of those big floppy wide-brimmed hats, and I use the Outdoor Research Sun Briolet, which I really like a lot. I also had some Outdoor Research sun gloves. I've had several different brands, but basically when you're hiking in the desert, you just want to make sure you've got some sun gloves to protect your hands, especially if you're going to be using trekking poles and you've got your hands up all the time. I also carried the Silver Moon Designs Reflectix umbrella. I really like that umbrella a lot, especially in exposed conditions like in the desert. It helps reflect that heat, and it's worth the extra ounces to me to just have shade instantly when I need it. It will also work in the rain if you need it. I don't feel like rain is typically something you have to stress about a lot on the Arizona trail, but I feel like I got a decent amount of days of rain. I did carry a rain jacket. I have the anti-gravity gear rain jacket that I've been using for a while. I like it because it's got an adjustable hood and has pit zips, and it's really bright, so if search and rescue was trying to find me, I'd stand out. I did not carry rain pants just because I wasn't worried about it raining a lot. So I felt like probably when I got rained on, it would be a thing where I was welcoming it anyway. But I had the jacket and a umbrella, and I knew that I wouldn't be sleeping in the same leggings I was hiking in, so that was just a personal preference. I chose to not carry rain pants. For toiletries, the things that I carried with me on this thru hike were sunscreen, chapstick, a mirror brush combo, toothbrush, toothpaste, baby wipes, baby powder, tweezers, and nail clippers. I feel like that covers the basics and is not too excessive. My repair and med kit is pretty basic. I have some duct tape that I have rolled up on itself that I can use for repairs if I need to, or extra friction reduction for blisters or whatever. And then in that, I always have a little needle poked down in there. And then I carry floss. I guess that's actually part of toiletries, but like a little beady floss like this. And that can also act as thread if I need to sew with that needle. An emergency blanket is always great to have if everything else fails and you're huddled up and need to stay warm. You have that. It's also good for helping search and rescue find you if you need to do that. And a sleeping pad patch kit. I always like to have this on a thru hike because you never know when you might need it, and like I did on this trek twice, once for myself and once for Rodney. And then as far as meds go, I feel like Advil or ibuprofen, some kind of pain reliever, antidiarrheal, and Benadryl in case of allergic reactions kind of covers all the bases. Electronics. My InReach Mini is something that I will always have with me going forward. After I needed to push the SOS button on a hike and call for search and rescue, I love to have that feature. This device also allows you to send messages, and I have a plan that allows me to do unlimited messages. Just make sure if you're gonna have the Garmin InReach or something that you're gonna push an SOS button to be extracted from the wilderness, that you have an insurance plan that covers that, and Garmin offers one through their website. That way you're not paying for an expensive helicopter ride. As far as a headlamp goes, I carried my Nightcore NU25. It's the same headlamp I've had for a while. It's rechargeable, it has a red light, it's adjustable, the band is comfortable, it's, got everything that I need. I carry a couple of different battery banks. I've got several different sizes, but the big takeaway for me, I like the Anchor brand a lot. It's been reliable, they last a long time. I've dropped them a good bit and they still function. So for this trek, I ended up carrying a 26,800 milliamp hour brick, and then I had a separate 10,000 milliamp hour one for just my breast pump. So I knew I had enough charge for it. I carry a bunch of camera gear, so the 26,800 milliamp hour brick is probably way more than most people would need. But that's what I've built up to over time. Rest pumping gear. I figure there might be a small amount of mamas out there that want to know kind of how I pulled this off. And if there are people who want to have a more in-depth look to what I did, why I selected the stuff that I did, and how I made it work, then let me know in the comments and I'll consider making a longer video on this topic. But I used the Baby Buddha breast pump. It's relatively lightweight when you compare it to like a big Spectra or, the Medela that I have rented from our local pharmacy. It would just be like impossible to do on a hike like this. But the Baby Buddha worked well for me. I got probably 3 or so 30-minute pumps out of the Baby Buddha with the settings that I use. For camera equipment, I could spend like 11 years going into all the stuff I use and what I use for what and why. Well, most of it's because Aaron recommended it, but this video would be 3 times as long if I did that. So I will have all of my camera equipment listed in the Lighter Packs list so you can see all the stuff. If you're interested in a full-blown rundown, then let me know in the comments and maybe I can do something like that. And now miscellaneous, the category that all the random stuff goes into. First up in miscellaneous is my MT Knives Talon neck knife. Now in the past I've always carried the Genesis, and the Talon is all of the same good stuff about the Genesis. It's a lightweight knife. It's actually a smaller blade, but it's made out of the Magna Cut steel. Patrick still sharpens it literally beyond razor sharp. It comes with a Kydex sheath, paracord, and a safety breakaway bead. And I really like it because it is a smaller blade, and having it up top, especially for ladies, you know, who have a curvy chest, having a longer blade can kind of be awkward the way it protrudes and stuff. So having this smaller blade was just more comfortable, just as convenient, and I think I'm going to use the Talon going forward. And I'm even considering for my knife sales later in the year doing the Talon instead of the Genesis. I don't know y'all's thoughts on that, so if you have an opinion, if you'd be interested in the Talon, then feel free to leave a comment below, because I'm still debating, but I'm kind of leaning towards the Talon. Black Diamond carbon cork trekking poles. I have been using these things mostly since my through hike of the PC in 2017. I did switch to some Leckies for a little while just to see if I would like them better, and I did really like them a lot, but I had issues with them. I didn't have issues with my Black Diamonds ever, and so they've just been my go-to, and probably stuck with them going forward. And considering how many miles I've hiked with them, that should tell you something about their durability. And last but not least, bear spray. This is something that I probably wouldn't have carried except for my experience with the rabid skunk. And after that, I just couldn't get it out of my head. Like, I needed some kind of something to make me feel more protected at night when I was in my tent and so vulnerable. It wouldn't have been a good thing to spray that skunk with bear spray anyway, because then it probably would have sprayed me, and then I'd have bear spray mist in my face and in my tent and skunk. But you know, if it's that or get torn up by the skunk, well, then I'm spraying. Unfortunately, in the state of Arizona and out on the Arizona Trail, I heard more about rabies than on any other trail before. So it's not a bad idea. And if I was going to go through hike the Arizona Trail again, I'd bring bear spray again. Not even necessarily for bears, but I mean, I did see some bears, but just rabid animals. It's not a bad idea to have some. So if you look at my ladder pack list, my total weight is just over 26 pounds for all of the gear that I mentioned. I feel like I'm forgetting a little thing here or there, so we're probably right around 27 pounds or so. The worn weight items come out to around a pound, just a little over. So I would suspect that my pack before any food, any water, was around 26 pounds, not counting, you know, the clothing that I wore to hike in. So then if you add on another 13 pounds of water when I had my full 6 liters, you're looking at almost 40 pounds of weight, not even including food. So I was pretty loaded down for my AZT through hike, and I tested that ULA catalyst like to the extreme. But anyway, I'm glad that I did not know this number in my brain before I went out to the trail. That would not be fun to think about as I was walking. I knew it was pretty heavy, but you know, here in hindsight, there's really nothing that I felt like was excessive or that I wish I had gotten rid of. Actually, there is more camera equipment that I wanted to carry more often or at all, like my trail cam that I normally take, but I was just so loaded down and worried about my milk supply dropping with carrying too much weight, and it was a balancing act. But anyway, I hope that this helped answer some of y'all's questions about the gear I carried on my through hike of the AZT. If you have any questions about anything that I didn't go into enough or whatever, please feel free to leave those in the comments below. Thank y'all so much for watching, and we will see y'all next time.